Hey everybody, let's learn something new today with Mr. Mosley, the music teacher.
The Mountain Man of Music by Gillian Lynn. Zhu Zaiyu, 1536 through 1611. Musician and scientist, Ming Dynasty. Once upon a time in China, a prince was born in a royal palace. The little prince called Zaiyu was a terrible baby. He cried all night long and kept everyone in the palace awake. His parents tried their best, but nothing could make him go to sleep. After many nights of suffering, the baby's father was fed up. He was tired and miserable from all the wailing. To make himself feel better, he started to play a tune on the flute. Suddenly, a miracle happened. The baby was quiet. He had stopped crying. Zaiyu's parents were overjoyed. They had finally found the secret to keep him quiet. Playing beautiful music. From that moment on, his father played the flute for hours and hours every night to get the baby to sleep. When Zaiyu was only 3 years old, his mother died. The little boy became very close to his father, who taught him everything he knew: reading, math, poetry, and of course, music. Zaiyu turned out to be very bright and hard-working. He read everything he could get his hands on. As a prince, he had his own teachers who taught him everything they knew. Zaiyu asked them question after question until he became so clever that his teachers could not answer his questions any longer. Zaiyu enjoyed a happy childhood. But this changed when he was 15 years years old. His uncle, who was also a prince, wanted to become the Emperor of China. However, he was worried that Zaiyu's father would stand in his way. So he wrote a mean letter to the emperor saying, "You shouldn't trust my brother the prince, your majesty. He is planning to bump you off the throne and become emperor himself." None of this was true, but unfortunately believed his uncle's lies. He immediately threw Zaiyu's father in prison. Zaiyu was very sad. He went to see all his father's friends to ask them for help, but no one did. Even worse, they were mean to him and pushed him away. They were too scared of the emperor. At his wits' end, Zaiyu sank down to his knees and cried. How could they do this to my father? I hate the emperor. I hate the royal family. I don't want to live in the palace any longer until my father comes back. With tears in his eyes, Zaiyu moved out of the palace and built a house out of mud. He lived there by himself, ate simple food, and slept on a rough, uncomfortable bed. To keep himself busy, Zaiyu read every book he could find about math and music. Every day he thought of his father and felt sad again. Only when he was playing his flute, he felt a bit better as he remembered how his father used to play for him when he was a little boy. After Zaiyu had lived in the mud house for 19 years, the Emperor of China suddenly died. This was the best thing that could ever happen. The new emperor ordered for Zaiyu's father to be released from prison and sent him back to the palace as a prince. Zaiyu was overjoyed, and so was his father, who said, "My son, you have lived by yourself for so long. Now it's time for you to be happy. Please move back to the palace with me." Once Zaiyu did, his life changed. Not only could he live with his father again, but he also met a bright and beautiful girl. She loved music as much as he did, and they soon got married. Zaiyu and his wife love each other very much. They could not stand being apart. When Zaiyu went on a trip one day, his wife sent him a parcel. He opened it and found a pair of new shoes, needlework, some herbs, and a musical instrument made of mud. Although his wife had not included a note, Zaiyu immediately understood what it meant. The names of these objects made a sentence in Chinese. When you say the words out loud, they sound very much like, "I really miss you. Come back home quickly." Sadly, Zaiyu's happiness did not last. One day, his wife got very ill and died. Zaiyu was heartbroken and said to himself, "How can I possibly live without her?" He cried for days on end, but when his tears finally dried up, he said, "Life is so short. I should work on what I've always wanted to. Bring math and music together." He buried himself in his favorite books again and wrote down everything he learned. Soon he came up with many new ideas, and that made him feel better again. Just then, another disaster happened. His father fell ill, and before long, he also died. Zaiyu had lost the two people in the world he loved the most. However, he did not have time to be sad. He had to take his father's place in the palace as a prince, even though he did not want to. All Zaiyu wanted was a simple life away from the palace. So he wrote to the emperor asking if he could be excused from his duties. The emperor said no. But Zaiyu did not give up. He wrote letter after letter. Only after the 7th one did the emperor finally agree to let him go. Zaiyu moved out of the palace and settled down at the foot of a mountain. Every day he worked in the fields, growing food and flowers. At night, he read and wrote books about math and music. Zaiyu spent the rest of his life as a simple peasant and became known as the Mountain Man of Words and Music. Zaiyu's biggest discovery was that you need only 12 musical tones to make beautiful music. After his death, people from Europe came to visit China and found out about Zaiyu's 12 tones. They returned to the West and used his idea to invent a new instrument, the piano. Today, you can still listen to the 12 musical tones Zaiyu discovered. All you need to do is press the black and white keys on a piano between keys A to G. Zaiyu was not well known in his lifetime and still isn't. But his clever discovery of the tones lives on in the beautiful music we enjoy today. For us to sing, to dance, and of course, to put a crying baby to sleep. The end. Did you know? 1. According to legend, a colorful phoenix bird flew from the sky and landed on a branch of a tree in front of the palace where Zaiyu was born. This was seen as a sign of good luck. Even though he was a prince and lived in the royal palace, Zaiyu's father did not look down on ordinary people. He would dress in normal clothes and talk to villagers. That was why Zaiyu was so humble and easygoing, choosing to lead a simple life rather than living as a prince in the palace. 3. From a young age, Zaiyu proved himself to be a true genius. He taught himself almost all he knew. Music and math were his favorite interests, but he also showed great talent for poetry and astronomy, the study of the universe, including the sun, moon, stars, and planets. Four. Zaiyu came first in many areas. He was the first to invent the equal temperament, the 12 musical tones, and the first to write music scores and invent musical instruments using these tones. In mathematics, he was the first to use a traditional counting frame called an abacus to solve a square root, a number which multiplied by itself gives you the original number. A Chinese abacus. 5. Zaiyu wrote his own pieces of music based on his discoveries. He played his musical scores with a small orchestra consisting of wind and string instruments. He tuned them using special instruments like the one in the picture on the right. 6. In Zaiyu's lifetime, millions of people from the country moved to the cities to find work. They brought along their musical instruments, but they all used different tones, so it was hard for them to play music together. This was one of the reasons why Zaiyu invented the 12 tones. Seven. Zaiyu wrote this poem about what he thought were the most important things in life. Putting paper on the windows, making a bamboo bed, hanging a picture, growing flowers, looking after the garden, being buried under a hill after I die. That's what makes me happy. Eight. When he was 45, Zaiyu published his masterpiece, the complete edition of the ritual tone system. This was a series of 36 books that covered music, mathematics, acoustics, sounds, measurements, astronomy, and dance. Altogether, Zaiyu wrote more than 7 million Chinese characters. 9. Not only was Zaiyu an expert in music, he was also the first person to write a book about the basics of dance, which included a dance performed with flags. 10. If Zaiyu had not discovered the 12 tones, we would not have had Beethoven, Bach, and Mozart, nor Michael Jackson, Taylor Swift, and Eminem. Without his genius, music as we know it today may not exist. Test your knowledge. How did Zaiyu's parents manage to get him to sleep when he was a baby? A. They put him into bed with them at night. B. They carried him around until he was asleep. C. His father played the flute and its tune made baby Zaiyu go to sleep. Two. Why did his father's friends not want to help Zaiyu? A. Because they didn't like Zaiyu's father. B. Because they were afraid of the emperor. C. Because they were mean people. Three. When Zaiyu was away on a trip, how did his wife tell him she wanted him to come home? A. She sent him a parcel with things that sounded like, I miss you. Come back home quickly. B. She sent him a long better. C. She asked her friend to send him a message. 4. When his father died, what did Zaiyu do after he moved out of the palace? A. He traveled around the country trying to find new discoveries in music. B. He lived in a hut built from mud and grew food and flowers, while he kept on reading books and making new discoveries. C. He moved to a different country and stayed there for the rest of his life. Five. What was Zaiyu's biggest discovery? A. He discovered the 12 tones that are still used today to make music. B. He discovered the piano. C. He discovered a method of making music that would make flowers grow faster.
Have a nice day, everybody. See you next time with Mr. Mosley, the music teacher.